Hello, my name is Tomas Ramos. I am doing my self-reflection based on a couple of questions that are pretty interesting. One of them is how does my cultural lens affect my teaching, and the second one is how do the assignments and projects and assessments that I use connect content area knowledge to students' daily lives, including experiences with racism and injustice. Uh, Starting with how does my cultural lens affect my teaching, I like to talk a little bit about how uh, I reflect on my own cultural lens and think about a million ways to explain how I use these experiences in class. One simple way that I use is by oftentimes using my upbringing as the way my life has been shaped over time. Sometimes this is a simple way to do it, especially when I lecture in multicultural communications, interpersonal communications, or even in public speaking, because I always have to keep in mind that students come from all different walks of lives. And when I use an example, it's not always, it's a great way to explain a point, but I have to be mindful and aware that it doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. And sometimes have to use two and three and four examples without losing track of being repetitive and making sure that those examples that I'm using are thoughtful and applicable to the population that I'm trying to reach. One of the concepts that I often talk about in a lot of my classes, the majority of my classes, is conflict resolution, and it is important to for students to learn how, culturally speaking, we have been taught in perhaps opposite ways on how to not only view conflict but how we approach it. This is, for example, part of interpersonal communications. This is part of public speaking when we do a debate in the classroom. And it is also part of multicultural communications. One of the things that I talk to students about is how to develop strategies to learn how to look at conflict and learn strategies about how to handle conflict, because having students that come from all kinds of um, backgrounds, including age, gender, or even physical ability, it is it is interesting to see how we all have different views of what conflict resolution is supposed to look like. But when we have a specific way and technique of learning how to deal with conflict resolution, it makes the process not always better, but it does facilitate the process and it helps us navigate through life way better than otherwise. Another question that I have been reflecting about is how do the assignments and projects that I use in class uh, are relevant to students' daily lives and their experiences, even including instances of racism and injustice that they may be experiencing in their lives. And so there are several assignments that I use in the classroom that go over these scenarios that include how one deals with racism or discrimination. One of the things that I do, for example, in my public speaking class, is a debate that happens towards the end of the quarter, and it's really interesting to teach students and see how they transform when they're asked to select the subject and select the either the other person or the team that they're going to be debating against, but not the side. And over the years, I have been able to see that and experience how there are so many issues that affect minority students and people of underrepresented communities. And these are ranging from immigration, homelessness, prostitution, poor healthcare, uh, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And these problems seem to be greater within the populations that are underrepresented, not only in our campus but throughout the United States. And in the past, for example, students have had to debate about the right of NFL players to kneel down while the national anthem is playing, or perhaps the use of mask, facial coverings during the pandemic, or even the efficacy of vaccines, any vaccine. Because what we find is in the real world is that there are people out there that have a different view that we do, and it doesn't help if we only believe the way that we do. It's important to understand where the other person is coming from, what the reasons are, and why they have this viewpoint that is so different than our own. And only when we approach a subject or a topic or a challenge with an open mind are we able to see where the other person stands. And the truth is that to be able to win a discussion or a debate, and perhaps the winning is not the right word, but to be able to see, to be able to have a better understanding and come to terms with other people and understanding that we have disagreements, the most important part is that in order for us to be successful, you have to learn and understand the other side rather than just your own. And when we do that, we are better for it. One of the things that I have done this past year is attending a seminar from the University of Florida on resilience and trauma that the students go through in their lives and how it affects the way they navigate through college. And it has been an interesting set of modules that TCC offered me the opportunity to go through. I'm so very appreciative of that. I finished the course and I learned so many aspects of what resilience is, what trauma is. Again, because while I may have gone through my own traumas and I may be resilient in my own way, there are so many other aspects that I was not fully aware. And one of them is, for example, how to look for resources, where to look for them when someone is struggling, and to be more aware of those scenarios when, so that if I see somebody going through that, specifically in my classes, perhaps I can, not perhaps, but I should be doing something about it. And it was a really good tool to have learned skills and set of circumstances to have learned about, because it will make my interaction with students way better. And perhaps because now that I'm older, and even though if I have gone through those circumstances in the past, life has changed radically and we're experiencing so many new set of circumstances, so that in the future I intend to continue to grow, perhaps taking more courses and having more conversations with my colleagues to develop a better environment for our students on campus at TCC. So this is my self-reflection for at Tacoma Community College, and it was a pleasure having this opportunity to think about and have this space to go over what I have experienced this year and start thinking about ways that I can continue to improve.